Well, counting down to South Africa's local government election, let's take a look now at what to expect on November the 1st. Joining me now is political analyst Levy Ndou, as well as Terry Tselane from the Institute of Election Management Services. He's the chair there. Gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you, and thanks indeed for joining us. Let me start with you, Mr. Ndou. How would you say the different political parties, first of all, have fared in trying to woo the electorate?
Good evening, Griselda. Good evening to the viewers at home. Maybe one must start by saying that we did not have time, and there was a state of uncertainty, especially when we look at the issue of COVID-19 and the application that was made by the IEC for the elections to be postponed. But one might say that though we did not have sufficient time, political parties themselves were able to pick up pieces, and they were able to go out onto the ground and campaign. For obvious reasons, the campaigns took a different shape due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But I'm convinced that all the political parties were able, given the short space of time, to campaign, to talk to potential voters, and also at the same time to be able to reach all corners of South Africa. And I think with the assistance of different political parties, most citizens and the majority of the citizens in South Africa are now aware that there are local government elections that are going on, and also they might have already taken decisions on whose party to vote for. So generally, if you move around the streets of South Africa, it's posters everywhere, from different political parties. We've seen political parties campaigning through social media, the use of media in the form of televisions and radios, including newspapers. And I think, in my view, that the political parties have actually done more than enough to be able to woo voters to vote for them. And I think, indeed, none would be able to say that he or she could not hear something coming from political parties, because I think, in my view, they've actually done more than expected in the shortest space of time given.
Mr. Tselane, let me bring you in there. We're just seeing scenes at the start of our bulletin and earlier on this afternoon in Umzindo, where there are disruptions there. There seem to be community members that are not happy with one of the candidates there. Police have been dispatched to that area where tires have been burnt. Our colleagues are telling us that they're being intimidated in that area. Are these scenes that we're not surprised to be seeing just hours before this election?
Thank you very much for having me. I must say that, most of the time when it comes to local government elections, various communities use the elections as a platform to raise whatever issues that they feel disaffected by. So I'm not surprised that we're having certain tensions, or some tensions in certain areas, as we have already seen. But we obviously did not expect that the kind of the tension that would exist would lead to the kind of violence that we are seeing in some of these areas. And hopefully that the Electoral Commission, through conflict management committees, would still work with the community leaders in those respective areas to try to calm the situation down, to make sure that by the time people go and cast a vote on Monday, that the environment is still conducive for people to participate in this process.
What should be done immediately, Mr. Tselane, to ensure that that does happen? Because today already was a lost opportunity, perhaps for some who may have wanted to participate in the special vote or had applied for a special vote in that area. It's past 5 o'clock. The tensions are still quite high in that area now. Police are still on the location there. We don't know whether special votes will continue there tomorrow. And there's a high likelihood that this could possibly spill into Monday.
Absolutely, the situation is not contained right now. There is a possibility that this could spill over to Monday. And then if it does, it will negatively affect the environment within which the elections should be taking place. And I think it is something that should be avoided at all costs. As I've suggested, that in addition to having law enforcement agencies playing a role, the Commission should actually try to use conflict management committees that they have, as well as leaders in various communities, to try to calm down the situation and try to find some kind of a settlement that would allow the electoral process to proceed tomorrow as well as on Monday.
Mr. Ndou, with the scenes that we're seeing coming out of Umzinto and over the past couple of weeks, the demonstrations or voices that communities have had of dissatisfaction about the level of service delivery in their areas, with the opening up of the political space, so many independent candidates, is this good or a bad thing for South Africa's democracy?
Well, I think one must acknowledge the fact that our democracy is growing in South Africa. And as democracy matures, citizens will then be able to know their rights and how they actually have to exercise their rights. I think we need to look at it from different angles. The first angle will be that in the context of them exercising their rights, which is actually given, they will have then to participate as independent and actually ensure that they actually deliver. Maybe it's where they've actually identified holes from the different political parties. But you also have to look at it also from the point of political parties. In most instances, people who become independent would be coming from certain political parties, and in some instances, they might not have made it onto the list, or they felt that they've been undermined by their own political parties, and then they choose to become independent candidates. There might be nothing wrong if we look at it broadly, but from the perspective of a political party, they might then be seen as people who are actually defying political parties, and then in some instances, they might go with some voters, or they might also not go with some of the voters and not make it. But also what we need to look at is that what impact do independent candidates make if they are able to be voted into the council? I think having coalitions in South Africa might has also influenced why certain people have chosen to become independent candidates. Because in instances where certain political parties would need just a vote of 2 for them to be able to run a municipality, they might opt for coalitions. They will opt for independent candidates, and that might then make independent candidates to have a voice in the running of a municipality. But also at the same time, there are instances where independent candidates who might make it onto the council might then be isolated because they will not be part of any political party. And even though they raise their voices, they will always be suppressed because they will always be the majority voice in the council. Also, another aspect that we need to look at, Christelda, is that when you have an individual in the council representing himself or herself, this person might be stretched because there will be a lot of other committees and responsibilities to be rendered, and this person will be expected to do more than enough because he or she has to serve in many committees of the council. Another side is that these people will not be able to account openly to anybody because in any way they are independent. So we need to look at the advantages and disadvantages, but also at the same time,
Mr. Ndou,
we look at what a constitution is offering for us.
Mr. Ndou, I want to bring this in before we run out of time. I mean, with the analysis, I guess, that we've been getting over the past couple of weeks about the possibility of coalitions, in more of the metros, there seems to be a huge possibility of that taking place. How does the electorate hold these political parties accountable, for delivering proper services when you go into those kinds of coalitions where, oftentimes we've seen there's more bickering taking place than actual service delivery?
Well, I have suggested that there is a need for us to start regulating political coalitions,
yes.
Such that you have a proper mechanism through which coalitions can operate. You've got protocols, principles, that those who enter into coalitions deposit their agreements that contain a conflict resolution mechanism as well as the protocols to a register of coalitions. And hopefully the South African Parliament will begin to realize the importance of regulating this coalition and creating a structure almost similar to CCMA that can then begin to make sure that the coalitions are able to deliver to the people that they have elected them, or the constituencies that have elected these political leaders into councils.
Terry Tselane from the Institute of Election Management Services, the chair there, as well as political analyst Levy Ndou. Thank you very much to you both, gentlemen, for joining us here on the program. Let's